Do you want to mimic, antagonize, or inhibit? We're going to be discussing IGR, insect growth regulators, and mode of actions on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, here every week discussing all things pest. We're going to be discussing insect growth regulators, why some people don't use them, why others say they don't work. And we're going to be finding out why all these situations happen with insect growth regulators. But the reality is that insect growth regulators are an integral part of any integrated pest management system that you have. The idea that you can control or continue to control pests with a monthly spraying of bifenthrin baseboard spraying to every unit in an apartment building and expect to get control is equivalent to being insane. That doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it doesn't work. You have to integrate different products into your system in order to get control. And insect growth regulators are, by most people that I talk to, don't use them. Number one reason, they're too expensive. The idea that you're adding another product to the bifenthrin that costs you 11 cents a gallon to make, and to add another 30 to 40 cents to that gallon is going to bankrupt you, is one of the most, how should I put this, asinine thoughts that I've ever heard, and it has to do with not knowing how to use them. If all you do is baseboard spray, then yes, you're going to go through a fortune of IGR. But if you're a crack and crevice guy, which most IGRs are applied indoors as crack and crevice, then you're going to see a different result. Now, the other argument to that is chemical is cheaper than service and time. Crack and crevice does take more time. So, if you're looking to be the cheapest company, get it done the quickest, get it done the fastest, so you can pull off 30 stops a day, yes, stick with your B&G and your baseboard spray and fall behind in the industry. And, be the equivalent to a buggy whip, or better yet, to a rotary phone. You can be that comparable. But those of you who want to do better, who want to excel, who want to be actually get control of things, then you have to learn different techniques, different products, different procedures in order to accomplish that. And IGRs do work. We've discussed them before in brevity. We've discussed them a couple of times during several podcasts, and I'm going to put links up to those so you can kind of get a better picture. But we have about 4-5 different types, maybe 6, of different insect growth regulators. But what's available to us as pest control technicians really isn't about 2, maybe 3 categories. And we're going to be discussing that. Now, how do IGRs work? Well, insect growth regulators are not insecticides as we know them to be. They don't work on the neural level like most insecticides work. Most are neurotoxins, whether it's a pyrethroid, whether it's a neonic, whether it's a carbamate, whether it's an organophosphate. Most of those products work on the neural level of the insect, so in the neurology, by either blocking a channel or opening a channel. But IGRs work mainly on the endocrine system of the insect, hormonally. Okay, so they are hormones. Some of them are steroids. Some of them are equivalent to antibiotics in the same way antibiotics work to creating these disturbances in the insect. And they mimic the action of hormones to disrupt either the molting process or modify the insect's growth in either insect or mites, because there are IGRs available for mites, or arachnoids. They are available. The question is, you have to know the mode of action. You have to know how these work and on what target pest they work, because simply by buying an IGR and switching from one brand to another, you're not getting a different type of control. In the death of an insect, especially in the larval stage, or the first instar stage, or the in the egg stage, these IGRs can kill insects anywhere between 3 and 14 days. And inside an environment like a house or a crack or a crevice, a void where there is no light, there is no UV light, you can get up to 6 months of this product actually working. And the biggest thing that people have is like, well, IGRs, don't last a long time. No, they last a long time in the right environment. If you put them outside where UV light, photodegradation is very, very, very high in IGR. So when you're applying an IGR to a landscape, or you're applying it for mosquito control, understand that you're only going to get about 2 weeks to 21 days of lasting on the outside. But on the inside, you can get up to 6 months of that product working, depending on the product. Some are every 3 months, some are every 4 months, some are every 6 months. You can get control outside. There's a companies that go out and say, you can get 90 days of mosquito control. That doesn't mean that product is going to be working actively for 90 days. If you use the IGR together with a microencapsulated insecticide, how long will you really get control? Well, on the foliage is one thing. In the mulch and shaded areas is another, and in areas where the lawns are, or where there's water in plants, is going to be another thing. But most of these IGRs are going to only give you about 14 to 21 days. All right, so don't expect anything more from them working at that point. Control, when somebody says you can get control up to, it's not that you're going to get 90 days of control. It's that you're going to get up to 90 days. And up to can be 30 days. Here in Florida, when you get 80 inches of rain in the summer or in the year, and you get about 60 of those or more in the summer, you have all that excess water. We have alkaline soils. If you put it on concrete, that's alkaline. That's going to defeat the product. If you put it on the foliage and it gets photodegraded on the foliage, then how long is it going to last? Well, up to is going to be depending upon water, standing water, neighbor standing water, how much is around that property, gutters, things that you need to look at. So get up to, in a perfect situation, in a perfect environment where this product was tested, whatever that was, they got up to 90 days. That means that there wasn't probably a whole lot of pests up to 90 days. I've never gotten it to work more than 30 days in Florida. Because why? We have a whole bunch of people with potted plants outside, with areas that are heavily shaded, with tons of mulch, with plants that hold water like bromeliads, and they planted 3,000 of these bromeliads. You're not going to get control. It's just not going to be possible. But for other insects like roaches, other insects like fleas, things like that, you can get very effective control, even using them in the landscape for ornamental pest control, against aphids, against hemipteran pests. You're going to get control because it interrupts the life cycle of the pest. It doesn't kill the pest directly. Okay, so insect growth regulators decrease population over time. When is the right time to use an IGR? The first time. If you're doing a food service or you're doing a home with heavy roach infestations or apartment units, from day one, you want to institute an IGR targeted to that pest, mainly roaches in these cases. Why? Because they're going to start working together with the other products that you're putting out to stop these insects from molting, coming alive, and being able to reproduce. What you're doing is you're not getting a direct kill, which everybody is looking at direct kill. It doesn't work because I went after 2 weeks and the population was still high. You're looking at that totally wrong. You need to look at it. What is it going to look like 90 days from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now? If we went into an apartment building that was totally infested with, which about, 60% of the units infested, we would use it from day one. But we're not expecting control or complete control between 6 and 9 months, to the point where nobody says, I see one here and there, maybe. This idea that you're seeing roaches all the time and it's okay in apartment buildings, simply because the owner of the unit, the owner of the apartment, wants an every door service and doesn't want to focus on the real issues that are conducive to the roach problem, and they want an every door service and they want you to spray everything and expect you to get control. If you put, you have to be either insane, ignorant, or a total moron, listen to me, to expect that you're going to get a roach control by spraying a baseboard in a kitchen cabinet, and by spraying every door in a kitchen cabinet, that you're going to get control of something that is way up there in that light, by something that is behind that cabinet, by something that is behind the wall. You're kidding yourself. Anybody who does that or continues to sell that either just is in it for the money and says, I'm just going to milk this contract because I know that in 6 months they're going to fire us and get somebody else and nobody cares. Or the owner says, no, I want an every door service, and you don't talk to him about doing integrated pest management and focusing on the units and spending maybe 15 to 20 minutes per unit on the ones that are seriously infected instead of going after every single unit. Insect growth regulator might help you, might going to reduce it, but it's still going to be over time. So it can't be, I want a quick knockdown and therefore it doesn't. No, you add it to your service knowing that over time it's going to reduce the amount of roaches that can be born, roaches that can molt into adults, that can molt into reproductive adults, and those that they will die in the first, second, third, or fourth instar because they never make it to adulthood because of the activity of an insect growth regulator. It affects eggs, the larval, the nymph, pupal development, in this case, in insects. So, while some may inhibit metamorphosis, but they can also affect the reproduction of egg viability. That's one of the things that you have to look at, is how does it work to reduce the pest. Now, IGRs aren't new. I mean, they've been around since 1956 when they were first looked at for insect control, and still to this day, after we're talking now. Let's see here, 50-something, 60 years later, people still don't know about IGRs. People still don't know that you can use them. People don't know how to use them. People don't know where you can apply them and for what insect, or if you apply it for an insect, or you apply it for a tick or a flea or spiders. They have no clue. And it just, I mean, I'm telling you guys, some of this stuff just makes my head hurt to listen to somebody that tells me, well, an IGR doesn't work. I mean, really? How much research? That just tells me that all they got is a B&G in their truck, and that's all they're doing. They don't do any research. They don't study. They don't get trained. Now, going on, survivor adults of exposed to IGR. In the case of flies, a housefly, the way it stops it from reproducing is it damages the wing development. Okay, so they can't be flyers, and they can't. So that reduces population over time. It stops complete larval development. In some cases, when it's ingested, it destroys or modifies the stomach system to get control of mosquitoes. In some cases, using the right IGR. Cuticle development. Does it stop the insect from developing a complete or thinner cuticle, allowing an insecticide to penetrate that you apply next time much easier? They interfere with the metamorphosis of a complete metamorphosis, the genitalia development, being able to produce fertile offspring. This is how an insect growth regulator works. Now, one of the advantages of using insect growth regulators is that we don't have those hormones, and neither do most pets. and pets don't have them, and wildlife doesn't have them. Other insects have them. Other beneficial insects have them. But if you're targeting inside and you're doing an indoor treatment with an IGR, the chances you of affecting any animal, any person, or any other beneficial insect is very, 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 very low. So that's the environmental impact or concern about using IGRs is out in the open near bodies of water because it can affect fungi. It can affect green algae. It can affect crustaceans because they do have chitin. But if they don't have chitin in their system, it doesn't affect them. If they're not affected by a juvenile hormone, if they don't have a juvenile hormone, then it doesn't affect them. So we don't have either. So pets don't have it either, so it doesn't affect them. So one of those are the things that why an IGR is actually beneficial and can be, said it's eco-friendly because of the way it behaves. Now, I want to give a special shout out to a bunch of people that have been listening to us and followed us and liked us and left us 5-star reviews, and thank you for all that. Michael Brinkman, pest control technician at Orkin, gave us a like on our Facebook. Thank you so much. John Macaluso the third gave us a review and a like. And man, I thought I had a beard. This guy's got a killer beard. Nick Madero Pest Control. Thank you so much, guys, for listening and liking and sharing our stuff. We really, really do appreciate it. Robert J. Gonzalez at hitmanpestsolutions.com. Also on Twitter, and Todd Fuller, sales executive at Gregory Pest Solutions, and Bugs by Brian M.O. Bugs by Brian, St. Louis area. So guys, thank you so much for everything you've done and liking us and sharing our stuff. Also, give us, if you find yourself on iTunes, you're listening to us, or you find yourself on Podcast Addict, or wherever you find yourself listening to us, give us a review, please. Give us some stars. Let us know how we're doing. That would be greatly appreciated. If you want to join us, leave a message. You want something that you would like me to talk about on the air. You want to make a comment about the podcast, you can call us, 707-395-7378. And you can join us that way. Also, join the Pest Geek Society by going to the member section and becoming a member for free. There's material available only for members and things we're going to be putting out only for members. So if you want to know about those things and you want to get notified and you want to get involved, other than just being a listener, that's the way to do it. You join the society. And if anything comes up that we need to let you know about, we will. Promise not to inundate your email box every single day with emails. I hate that, and I hate it when it's done to me, so I don't do it to anybody else. Couple of months back, there was an article that came out on PCT Magazine, and then also I got it from Florida, FLArecord.com, about B&G suing Aerofog for trademark infringement. So, B&G filed a lawsuit in Florida District Court against B&G. I forgot which district court that is, but anyway, you can look all that information up. I got some links on the podcast so you can see what was filed, why it was filed, and then also you can see the Pace Monitor at pacemonitor.com, how that case is progressing and everything that's been filed in that case. But is B&G really being violated? And that's that's the stuff that just comes into my mind. Are they being violated? Seriously, if you've got a patent on something and somebody steals it, you have a right to protect it. That's an American thing. I mean, this stuff happens in China all the time. Companies go over there, they have a product, and then it's getting knocked off, and pretty soon they own their company. I get it. You protect your rights, and so I got to look at it and says, really, where is the violation on the trademark when I'm looking at this product and they obviously look very, very different. I mean, there is no patent or trademark on a stainless steel can that I know of. I could be wrong. And if anybody wants to call me and correct me on that, that's fine. But I look at both pieces of equipment. one has meters on it and valves and release valves and pressure meters. The rod is similar, but yet it's still different in the design if you really look at it. Do you have a trademark on a can? And that's what I'm looking at. By looking at this, I don't understand the legalese. I'm just looking at it from a guy who does pest control and says, hey, what's going on? So they're being violated, or are they just simply being a bully because now they have serious competition and they want to just control the competition? I mean, is it the same with the phone systems and things, electronics, or do you have really a case for having a can that is a stainless steel can when you have very different design, very different look, very different name, where everything is on that can, even the design of the where you pour it is different. It's not even the same. It doesn't look the same. I mean, yeah, it looks like a can, but so do other manufacturers have cans. And they're inferior cans to the B&G. I mean, the B&G can, you're going to buy that thing once and forever. It'll last that long. It's a very good product. But, the question still becomes, is this really the case of you're being violated, or you're getting stiff competition, and the only way you can control the competition is really to basically bury them in court until you subdue them, they quit, or they obviously emerge from this and kick your butt, which is in the case of what happens in competition. So I just throw it out there. Check out the two links I have, one for the record that was published, and then for Pace Monitor. I'm going to be keeping an eye and see what the disposition of that case is and keep you informed of that. But in the case of IGRs, let's discuss the different types of IGRs that we have and the products available for this. So the first one we're going to talk about is juvenile hormones, analogs, and mimics. In order for this product to work, the insect or the target species has to have that juvenile hormone, the specific juvenile hormone, and that's what it attacks. There are a couple of products on the market that are juvenile hormones. Actually, the ones that are there, all three that are mainly used, are pretty much it in the IGR category. Pyriproxyfen, which is the active ingredient in a product like Pivot, or Tico Pro, or Distance. If your Distance is for those who are doing greenhouses and things like that, that's the same thing. And then you got methoprene, which is Alticid or Precor for fleas and ticks. Actually, for fleas, not ticks. And in mosquito control, also it works. The hydroprene, also in Gentrol for doing roach control. And hydroprene in Gentrol also affects aphids. So if you can get it for control in ornamentals, that active ingredient, but you got to get a label. Always make sure that even though it controls the insect, that it's on the label. In Aedes mosquito, Aedes aegypti, methoprene blocks midgut metamorphosis and death at the pupal stage for mosquito control. So, methoprene is very good, but in liquid form, when you spray it, you only get about 14 days. If you use the granular, which is like Alticid in wet areas, or areas like in the pots or pans, and you throw a couple of little granules in there, just a little bit. And if you got like plants like hold water, like bromeliads, you put it in there, you can get up to 30 days with the little granules versus using the liquid. All right. Now, why don't these work on ticks? Well, the absence of insect juvenile hormones in the American tick doesn't really control it because of that. The hormone isn't there in the American tick to get control. But you can get control with a chitin synthesis inhibitor or an ectizone antagonist, which we're going to talk about. So those will control it. The question is, where can you use them and how do you get them? All right, so a juvenile hormone analog, how does it work? It's more effective at the beginning stages of metamorphosis or embryogenesis. Now, embryogenesis is when the eggs are being formed and the insects are being formed inside the eggs. That's when it most effective at attacking those eggs. That's why you can get control. People say you can get control of flea eggs because of that, the way it works on flea eggs. Insects that are freshly ecdized, when during instar, they shed their own skin. So when an insect is actually molting and is shedding part of the skin or completely, when they're most vulnerable to be susceptible to the IGR. The problem is, here's why I tell you use it at the beginning of every account, because you don't know when that's going to happen and you're not there. And if you're not there if you're doing a quarterly service, this is why you're failing at getting control. Because you're not getting rid of the pest over time with a quarterly service, because you're not dealing with their life cycle. You're counting on that somehow that program is really just going to keep them under control so people don't complain much. But there's a difference between getting control and getting the illusion of control, or causing repellency, which is in the case of using a lot of the natural product. Now, I'm a big fan of natural. Our company focuses on natural and organics, but we focus on that on the outside of the home, not on the inside of an apartment building, using using a repellency product that's and then confusing getting control with repellency, only for the insects to come back really heavily after 2 to 3 months. So embryogenesis disruptive when the eggs are being treated with a juvenile hormone analog. So those are the ones that you have that most people use. I mean, you're either using one of these three. You're using hydroprene, you're using the pyriproxyfen, and you're using methoprene. Those are the ones that most everybody has access to. And then there's a couple of more. But molting hormone agonists are mostly found in products that end in the I guess it would be not the prefix, but in Zide, Z-I-D-E. So chromophenazide, these are mostly used in ag, and this is why you're not going to see them in most of the products we use. They're called molting hormone agonists, and they work as an ovicide. They inhibit larval growth, delayed pupation, and decreased adult emergence. Those are it. Now, molting inhibitors are also used a lot in ag. Remember that everything that you have, I keep saying this over because you don't have a product that was created just for you. We are less probably, out of all the pesticides applied in the world, pest control, urban pest control uses probably about 1% of the chemical. Everything else is being used in agriculture. So everything is a hand-me-down from agriculture. And it's been adapted and then been relabeled for use in those areas. A product like a molting inhibitor like diophenolone, which is pestanol, what it does is it uses the polyoxins are related like to antibiotics. A lot of these products work the same way in the chitin by acting as an antibiotic, okay? In the polymerizing enzyme of chitin synthesis or synthase. What happens is the translocation of the chitin chain across the cell membrane, and this happens all in the endocrine system. So this is why you don't see a lot of it, and there's not a whole lot of talk. It's just there's just not a whole lot. It's not like you can get 29 different pyrethroids. There's just not that many, and even believe it or not, they still don't know how a lot of these products work completely. So they're able to get a lot of things done. Now, in the landscape, if you're an ornamental guy, and as a Duractin is the product derived from neem, from the neem plant, or where neem comes from. It's also the active ingredient in Nemix. And it's an endocrine antagonist, which mimics ectodisone, triggering ectodisone production, forcing the insect to molt prematurely. Okay, so unlike not allowing it to molt or killing it or be attacking the juvenile hormone, this one, what does is it forces it to molt prematurely, which then causes to cease to feed and die. Is one of the main modes of action in a lot of IGRs is the ability to stop the insect from feeding somehow by disrupting something that causes them to stop feeding, and then they eventually die. Great in landscapes because you can use it. It's also Armory certified. If you use the right one, the Nemix, Armory certified, organic certified, you can use it in the landscapes. Pretty much, there's very little label restrictions on them because it is derived from a product that is considered natural. But what I would, you look at that and that's the way it works inside. Now, if you spray those also in the landscape and you have ticks, it will help control them because of the way it behaves. The other one is a chitin synthesis inhibitor. Now, chitin synthesis inhibitor is actually a product that is used called Ectozole, Etozole, which is a product in Beethoven, which can be used indoors as a fogger, a total release fogger, and it will control mites and it will control arachnids. It's also tetrasan, which is used outside. It inhibits chitin biogenesis in the two-spotted spider mite, as well as other types of mites in the landscape. And what I found is that a lot of natural oils that are used, other than using just a horticultural oil, which suffocates the insect, a lot of the natural oils have these abilities in them to control. This is why I'm a big fan of using them outside, because you can get a lot of control of a lot of insects outside that you can't do with a lot of the insecticides or the other IGRs. And these are natural products. They're 25B fit, for example. The problem is there's no real, if the companies that make the other chemical products that have patents would seriously do serious research and publish it, you would see a lot more use of these products because they do work. The problem is you have to learn how to use them. Very few people can tell you how to use them. I've been now using them for over 6 years in my landscapes, getting better control with proprietary blends that we're making than you can with bifenthrin in a landscape, trying to control whiteflies and trying to control a whole lot of other insects. So it can be done, but there's a huge learning curve. You got to invest time in it. You have to know which one works and which one doesn't and for what, and what's the active ingredient and all that. And there's just you got to do a ton of digging to find it. And I've published a lot of articles on it that have been published for you to know this. But in this case, active ingredients ending in RON, okay, are one of the, and it's also used in the Neverolon, which is the same thing. It's in Tico. This is why Tico is so awesome, because you can get control of multiple insects. It's the only one that has a dual mode IGR. So this is why it works great for controlling spiders and things like that. You can use it for ticks, in crack and crevice for tick control, and it does really, really well. It's also in Trolona, the ATBS, termite baiting systems that you can use. It's in there. Most chitin synthesis inhibitors are primarily used as larvicides. Treat the larva, develop it, to keep it from developing into a molting stage. But in as far as the creation of new cuticle, it doesn't work that way. So most are used to control larvae. So that's the way you got to look at it. You got to know which ones you have available and which ones, guys, are going to help you control the right insects so that you can get the right control. You got to ask questions. What is this? Call the manufacturer's rep. All right. And ask him, I got a problem with this type of insect. Will an IGR, or what do you have in an IGR that will work great? And manufacturers' reps know their product better than anybody. I wouldn't ask that question of a distributor. Distributors are there to distribute. They're there to, like, what do you want? They're order takers. What do you want? How much of it do you want? And what do you, when do you want it? But if I wanted to know about, then this is where I get most of my info from, is I actually talk to the manufacturer's reps, and they're the ones that know. So I would highly recommend. I also published on this report 5 studies, about 5 or 6 studies, so you can kind of really do some deep digging on all these types of insects and start learning the modes of action and really get into this, because it is where this happens that you really get the knowledge. I got a product that I really like. It has nothing to do with IGRs, but it is to control flies. And there's a new little for tabletop. You ever go to like the reception area at a restaurant, the front desk, there's no place to put a lamp there, or you go into an office and they're having, little fly problems here and there, and they can't get it controlled. There's one that you plug into the wall, but I like this one because this one's a tabletop one. It's called the Vector Thor, and it's the Sparrowhawk by Insistex Systems. And check it out, www.4- well, actually it's not a dash, I forgot what that is, the little one in the middle, and Thor.com. But it's called the Vector Vecto Thor Sparrowhawk desktop, little lamp. And it's a great little idea to do that, because I used to only have the ones that you plug into the wall, but you got to have a place to plug it in, and the flies would go, and you make sure nobody hits it and things like that. So I thought this was great. It's called for wall and desktop. You can use it for both, and it's a great little lamp. Hey guys, I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week. I know I have, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.